Hi, welcome to Virtually Together. I'm Janelle Riley. We're on day 20 of quarantine, which is, I guess, the stage where I cut off all my hair. Today we're talking to Vanessa Claire Stewart, who is an accomplished performer and writer. She co-wrote and starred in Louie and Keely Live at the Sahara, which you've probably heard of, but if not, it was just one of the biggest things to ever happen to LA theater. She then wrote Stoneface, which was the Buster Keaton story, which starred her husband, French Stewart. And just last year, she premiered the musical Deadly, which is sort of based on not the survivors, but the victims and the story of murderer H.H. Holmes. Anyway, without further ado, because I could just keep going on and listing her accomplishments, here's my conversation with Vanessa. Hey, Vanessa, I'm so excited to talk to you. I wanted to talk to writers from the beginning of this because I think there's this, everyone says, oh, Shakespeare wrote King Lear under quarantine, but it's not that easy. How is your productivity as a writer these days?
Oh, well, given the added bonus that I'm also a mom and have to suddenly become a school teacher, not that great. My productivity, when this first happened, when they're like, okay, we're forcing you to stay home, I was like, oh, all right, because I've got 3 different projects I'm working on at the moment. I was like, great, well, this will force me to be at home and finish these projects. And I found the opposite to be true. Not for lack of inspiration. I would love to be working on them, but I'm oddly busier now that I'm home all the time because I have to, it's impossible with the 6-year-old around to get into the zone I need to be able to write. But I do have about like a 30-minute run that I do every day to get outside. And that's kind of when I meditate and I ruminate on where I want the script to go. So it's all in my head. I just have no time to put it down.
Get it out on the computer.
Yeah.
That's how you type, I assume, like that.
This is the international time for typing. I think you're right.
Well, I think like a lot of people feel kind of guilty because they feel like they're not getting things done during this quarantine. And honestly, just staying at home and kind of surviving during this time is getting a lot done. And I know I beat myself up for like the first couple of weeks, like why haven't I written the great American novel yet? But I do think it's important. I think we're percolating during this time.
I think we're figuring out how to manage all of it and also to be able to mentally adjust to this new world, not knowing how long it's going to last. I think at a certain point we'll get into the groove of it, and I'm already trying to figure out, because for us it's about scheduling and going, all right, from this time to this time we're going to look at music, we're going to study this new thing, and so we are being productive, but I haven't yet carved out that mental space at that time of the day yet for this is Vanessa's writing time. Yeah.
And I should also point out, you are busy because I see the meals you make on Instagram and they look amazing. And you're always like, oh, I just had like a couple things, so I threw this together. And it's like some 5-star Michelin.
Well, I think like as creators, like if we're not being creative in one way, the creativity has to spill out into a different direction. So now my cooking is my creative outlet, and making movies with my kid.
Yes, I actually want to talk about that. And by the way, these are better creative things than chopping off all your hair in the middle of the night. So okay, I'm with you. Who had the idea to start making these movies starring your 6-year-old? Does she write them too?
Yeah, she helps me write them. I just became intimidated because this is our spring break, which means we have no guided plan during the day. At least when school was in session, they had things for us to do from like 9 to 2 p.m. Now we wake up in the morning and we just stare at each other and can't leave the house. And I didn't want her just to be in front of the TV all day. So I just went outside with my camera, and I was like, well, she's also in school. She's having to make up characters for her writing. So I thought, what if we started making up characters for, a movie? So I just told her, I was like, all right, Helene, create a character. Just go in your room, pick out some clothes, create a character, name the character and how they sound. And then I have them all just talk to each other, and I don't know what the dialogue actually is going to be until the edit, where I just edit, I just have her say a bunch of stuff. and so she just says weird stuff, and then I come back to my editing bay being the living room table, and and I just kind of smash it all together. So it winds up being this weird, David Lynch mashup that doesn't make sense, but I love it because I also have a love for very bad things. Maybe we'll record our own version of The Room. It's.
I think your daughter's a better actor than Tommy Wiseau, though, so you're not quite at room level.
Yeah, maybe we can get a cult following like him.
Oh, where can people actually see these videos? Do you post them on Facebook or YouTube or both?
Yeah, YouTube. I'm calling them the Quarantine Chronicles. We're in 2 episodes. I probably will film the 3rd one tomorrow. I got really frustrated because it was a learning curve for me too. I'm having to learn how to edit and add all the stuff together. So I'm getting a new skill set, which I'm hoping will be useful in the future. I'm thinking of adding a special guest star, French Stewart, at some point of the Quarantine Chronicles.
Do you think you can get him? I hear his rate is really high.
Yeah, that's true. I hope so.
Something I've never actually asked you that I'm kind of curious about is I knew you first as an actor. You won an LA Weekly Award for your performance in Clockwork Orange, and I almost said you were a great actor. You are a great actor. Did you always want to be a writer, or was it something that like you sort of turned to because you wanted to create roles for yourself?
Well, I was always interested in it. I wrote a lot growing up. I have these horrible little plays that I wrote for myself, I think as a lot of writers do. Like the archives of my 10-year-old writings are still in the office. I should do those. But and in college, I was a musical theater major, but also took playwriting. So again, like when I found myself not, because acting, we're at the whim of who casts you. But as a writer, we have the power to, I feel like writing today. So I just kept doing it when I was, first in LA, and started trying to write screenplays, and I couldn't not write. Although it took myself, it wasn't until my 3rd screenplay that I went, okay, maybe I can give myself permission to call myself a writer, which is a big step for me. I don't know why. And then, I realized that I'm a sort of very specific look for casting, and I believed in myself as an actor, but sometimes auditions, casting directors were like, well, what box can we put her in? I'm like, I know what box I can put myself. So I wrote myself a role, which wound up, sort of defining the rest of my career, because it officially turned me into a writer, and got me on a lot of stages in front of a lot of people.
So was Louie and Keely the first play or full-length play you actually wrote?
Yeah, that was the first full length. I'd written a couple of 1 acts. Talk about beginner's luck.
I would call it beginner's luck.
I trusted, I co-wrote that one with Jake Broder, because I didn't trust myself yet as a writer. And he had, I had seen him write a show for himself. So he became my co-star and my co-writer. And Louie and Keely, I didn't even name the play. Louie and Keely Light the Sahara was a play that started at our theater company, Sacred Fools, and then was discovered, I guess, by a lot of Los Angeles elites, filmmakers, and the rabble, and and then Taylor Hackford brought us from there to the Geffen, and then kind of all over the country after that. So.
I mean, everyone saw this play. I'm just off the top of my head, I remember Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson coming, Morgan Freeman, and it started at, back then we had a very small, I say this lovingly, kind of grungy theater company in East Hollywood, and it was fun to see like these Rolls Royces pull up.
Yeah,
and see this show in a 99-seat theater.
It was crazy, and then and then like you're right, like there. I like to tell the story. There was one day Rod Stewart came to see the show when we were at the Geffen, and he was, it was just like every night we'd look at, see who was on the list of people coming, and we saw he was coming that night. And one of the top lamps that was supposed to be aimed towards us on the stage had kind of gotten loose, and enough to, it started to aim down right onto Rod Stewart's seat. So like he had his own spotlight as I'm singing I Wish You Love. He was singing along with me. And so it was like I got to have a duet with Rod Stewart.
I think that spotlight probably just follows Rod around.
Probably, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
So you followed that by writing, and this is why I wouldn't call it beginner's luck. You wrote Stoneface, starring your husband, French Stewart, as Buster Keaton, and recently Deadly, based on the infamous murderer, H.H. Holmes. I'm noticing you seem to be drawn to true life stories. Is that coincidence or just something that interests you?
I think that's sort of become my milieu, my thing that I'm good at. I love researching. I love history. I have a TV show in development too that's about turn of the century New Orleans. I just love digging deep into things that actually happened. And sort of what I try to do is figure out the framework, the way into the story. You know, a lot of people had never told the Buster Keaton story because they didn't know, you can't tell all of the story. So which part is the most interesting? Which part do you unravel? And that I think that's the kind of puzzle I like to figure out.
And I should mention, you're one of the artistic directors at Sacred Fools Theater Company, which unfortunately had to, like every other theater, stop its shows. This is kind of a scary time when we can't put our art on stage. I mean, what do you think the future looks like? Will people want to go to live theater?
That's a good question. You know, I'm hoping like this whole pandemic thing seems to be an exercise in making us rethink everything, the way we think about how we live our life, how we think about healthcare, the financial system. You know, everybody has to re-examine, you know, everything. And something I've always thought about for theater is that we're long overdue building a new audience. We just are. We're not very attractive yet to the younger generation. And I think I'm very hopeful and optimistic that by giving more access to what it is we do, like by taking this time to figure out how to stream shows right, and having the YouTube generation kind of look at theater through the comfort of their own home, they might start to be attracted to seeing what it is in real life, in the same way that a person comes to Taylor Swift through their radio, and then they're like, oh, I want to see her in concert. I want to see it up close and personal. So I'm hoping that at the end of all this, if we expose enough new people and audiences to theater through streaming, then they will be more inclined to see it live.
I hope you're right. I heard that in some of the countries that have reopened or lifted such heavy lockdowns, people are really flocking to live theater. So that makes me optimistic. Yeah.
Well, and can you imagine, like, all these people after being cooped up for what could be months? I think everybody will be wanting, that's so thirsty for a live experience in an audience. So maybe this sort of growing pain is great for all of us.
Has your daughter ever been able to see you perform?
She saw me do Harvey. She saw French and I both do Harvey. She was too young for Louie and Keeley, and she's seen me. This was fun. We got to go to Chicago over Christmas, and I got invited up on stage at a jazz club called Craig's, and so she got to see Mommy sing a couple sets of jazz.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh wait, and you weren't in it, but she got to see Deadly, right?
Yeah, she did get to see Deadly. She calls it Mommy's murder play, or Mommy's death play. She's only 6. It is about a serial killer, but she asked, Mommy, when can I take my friends to see your death play? And I'm like, well, I'm glad you liked it. But
she was shooting for Louie and Keeley, but she was old enough for Deadly.
Yeah, I can't remember. When we were doing Louie and Keeley in Chicago, she was 2, and then she was 4 when we did it in Laguna Beach. So not quite old enough to sit through a live thing. But what's funny about Deadly is that we had been workshopping that show for so long that she was a baby when we were writing the Murder Castle song in my living room. So she'd go to sleep to the sound of Murder Castle, Murder Castle. Maybe that's why she likes it. I don't know.
By the way, that song is an earworm because I find myself singing it all the time.
Oh God, I know. And there's the song In the Basement, which now every time I watch Chris Cuomo on CNN from his basement, I'm like, in the basement, he's speaking. That's
I also love to ask writers, do you ever wrestle with writer's block? And if so, how do you get out of it?
Um, yes, I do. For me, since a lot of my stuff is, historically based, sometimes it's just reading a lot. Sometimes it's watching a lot of documentaries. Although I did start writing a new fictional screenplay, which that just came from, I took Helene to go see a horrible children's movie. And it was so bad that I spent the entire movie daydreaming about like I'm going to fix this by inventing a brand new children's movie in my head instead of watching. I won't say what the movie was.
I love that you're inspired by bad art because sometimes
I
that
am.
happens. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like, I can do better. Come on.
Yeah, I want to fix this somehow. So yeah, you're right. If I have writer's block, I'll just watch something horrible.
And what else is sort of getting you through this time? Are you binging any shows? You've probably seen Frozen 2 10,000 times.
Yeah, she does like the Frozen too. I didn't get to see, what's that Disney movie that just came out before the Onward. I didn't get to see Onward, but now that it's on, now that they've live streamed it, I'm looking forward to that. But like as French told you, we're doing Succession. We just finished up the Tiger King. Bad stuff.
Sure.
And so now I want to get back because I was so busy doing theater. I never watched TV at night. So I'm really behind on getting caught up with the TV shows. If you have any recommendations, I hear I'm supposed to watch.
I do. Is this your first time watching Succession, or is this a rewatch?
No, it's my first time. Like I said, I'm really behind.
Oh wow! Oh, I thought you had watched it before, and we're just going in for a second round. Well, now my Halloween costume will make sense shortly.
Oh, okay. I'll go back and look at it.
I went as a Succession character for Halloween and nobody knew who I was, and it was hilarious. But I keep getting like messages from people saying, I've been binging Succession during the quarantine and now I get it.
Now I get it. Later. Yeah. Oh, now I'm gonna have to go and look at your Halloween costume. Yeah, I miss so many like modern jokes and references because I literally, like, French and I did one show after another back to back, whether we were acting in it or it was Deadly. We went right from Finks to Harvey to pre-production for Deadly and did that, and then blah blah blah. So yes, TV. We watched the Emmys and we're like, I don't know any of these people.
If you don't want to reveal, or sometimes writers are superstitious, but can you tell us what you're working on now, or something you're excited about or would like to write or do?
I've got I'm rewriting Deadly because we're set to go in the fall, end of fall, early 2021 to have its next iteration at a couple of colleges so that we can keep working on it, because writing is rewriting, and having seen it in front of an audience, I saw what worked and what didn't, so we're going to fix what didn't, and so that is ongoing. Also, I got commissioned to write a musical about 1924 Moscow, Russia, and like you do. And then my TV show, I've got 2 TV shows. I was brought into the writer's room for a superhero comedy earlier this year that we got to finish the proof of concept of right before all of this, thank God. And so they're still looking to pitch. People are still pitch meetings over Zoom. And then, like I said, I have a full docket, as a lot of writers do. My TV drama that I'm developing with Taylor about 1910 New Orleans during the Jazz Age. And then my movie, this is a longer answer than you expected, I'm sure.
No.
The kids' movie is basically a girl version of Goonies taking place in Louisiana.
Yay! And what about the big screen adaptation of the Coronavirus Diaries with your daughter?
I know. If we develop that following, the investors will find us. I don't know. as we develop these weird characters.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I was going to say you have to get back to school, but you're on spring break. But I know you have to probably go make another movie today.
Yeah, I'm getting back to making movies and making sure my kid finished her lunch.
Well, thank you so much. Enjoy Succession. It only gets better and better.
Oh, yay. I know. We're on the last episode of the first season. So.
Oh, it's good. We'll wait till you get to season 2.
Oh, boy.
That's a rewatch, actually. You've inspired me.
Yay!
Have a good one. Thanks again.
Thanks.